We all have many loves in our life. We love Israel. We love our country. We love our community. We love our friends. And for those of us, we love our partners. This truly is a Shabbat of love. As Rabbi Jacob said, we are celebrating Rachel and Ben's Ufruf, a relationship written in the stars, a love that we elevate in anticipation of your upcoming chuppah. And Rabbi Jacob shared with me how truly special the two of you are and how you lift each other up, and we can see that today. The rabbis teach love lessons. I don't know if you know that. If you got the handout, this is a little bit of the love lessons that the rabbis teach. They were the original Dr. Ruth. In the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, the rabbis advise for the first source that a love that is built on simply one thing, on one connection, on one thread, that we love our partner for one specific reason, that love will not endure. And if you look on the back, this is the adult version of Pirkei Avot, as illustrated. Perhaps it is a relationship that is connected on one's cooking, a connection through the stomach, or a connection through the heart and the ears that one loves the other's music that they make. The rabbis advise that a love that isn't dependent on one specific thing, that love will never end. As Jessica Tamar Deutsch illustrates, when we love another person for just who they are. Rachel and Ben, we know that you know this already. We don't need to teach you these love lessons. But the rabbis expand this not only to romantic love, but also to friendship and to community, as Rabbi Jacob said. But then the Mishnah takes what appears to be a detour, and that is the second Mishnah that immediately follows, by teaching an essential life lesson using the word machloket in Hebrew, which we translate as argument or disagreement. The rabbis teach us that machlokets matter, that arguments, disagreements, debates are not only a reality in life, but they're actually a necessity. That machloket has the ability to be helpful or the ability to be destructive. And we're introduced to the phrase a machloket for the sake of heaven, l'shem shamayim, that arguments and disagreements can be positive for the sake of heaven. They can be good and healthy, but when they're not, they are directly the opposite, destructive and divisive. And the Mishnah sheds lights on two examples in particular. The first is the classic Talmudic debates between the ancient sages Hillel and Shammai, who are held up as the model of kosher dissenters because they elevate conversation, they never denigrate. They respectfully acknowledge the other's position, allowing for healthy dialogue, actively listening, responding, open to growth and learning from the conversation. These discussions, these are better debates, help form their opinions because they have a growth mindset. They are better rabbis because of it. But the Mishnah's second example is that of a machlokat she'ena l'shem shamayim, an argument that is not for the sake of heaven. And that is our Torah portion's namesake, Korach, as Rabbi Jacobs explained before. He was the rebel leader who gathered around him a small rebellion, challenging Moses and Aaron's authority, seemingly for his own personal gain, not engaging in healthy and meaningful conversation, but seeking a power grab, an elevation of his own personal status, perhaps through greed, fueling division among the Jewish people. And the rabbis even teach that this group of 250 plus were only united for one particular reason, their opposition to the current leadership, but for no other way did they have anything in common, have anything that united them. They were defined by what they were against, not by a vision for what they stood for. So what do we learn from this? What are these life lessons? What are these love lessons? Ben and Rachel, in your premarital meetings with Rabbi Jacobs, I don't know if you addressed this, but he blessed you. What is it that love teaches, that the rabbis say? Is it that we can't have a loose connection? Can we only be held by one thread together? But is it that we must be tightly wound by many things that bind us together? And the arguments and disagreements don't have to be a relationship problem. That in fact, couples can disagree. Congregants might argue, might disagree. Countries might argue and disagree. But can those be healthy conversations that make us better? We have definitely seen this week in our country, in Israel, and in the world, an explosive week of dissension and division, from presidential decisions, from Supreme Court decisions, from mayoral elections, from war in Israel and Iran, and locally even with the Brown Stadium relocation. When another week of missiles rained down on our Israeli brothers and sisters, directly hitting homes, directly hitting hospitals, directly hitting groundbreaking laboratories, and our IDF soldiers paying the ultimate price. When protests have filled our streets in America and as well in Israel, when anti-Semitism and anti-Zionist voices continued to get louder and louder. In lower stakes, if you'll allow me a second of something not perhaps as meaningful, this week we had the NBA draft for basketball. There too was dissension and division, questions of who should be the next pick, who should we ride the future of a team on, whose stock was the highest ceiling, whose game would translate to the pros, whose injury history would be a red flag, who would be a good teammate, unselfish, who could elevate a team and not just themselves and their brand. And this week, history was actually made, if you saw. 2 Israelis were drafted in the first round, both by the Brooklyn Nets. We have a new team to follow now. But it's the question that NBA scouts and GMs ponder: who will be a good teammate? Who will unselfishly elevate the whole and not just themselves? Who will fit in that chemistry, as Rabbi Jacob said? It doesn't mean that you have to be exactly the same. It doesn't mean that you have to see exactly the same way. But how can you create more than one bond just by wearing the same uniform? That one thread that connects you. How can you be bound and wound so tightly together that you listen, that you see, that you pass the ball to them and give them the opportunity and they give you the opportunity to raise and elevate the team for a win? Marcus Aurelius, not an NBA scout, once wrote, "A noble person compares and estimates oneself by an idea which is higher than oneself, but a mean person by one lower than himself." The first, the noble person, produces aspiration, but the second produces ambition, which is the way that a vulgar person aspires. That phrase, l'shem shamayim, that we found in the Mishnah, Perkei Avot, when discussing disagreements for the sake of heaven, defines motivations and intentions. And if you read the commentary below on the sheet I gave to you, Bartanura, the rabbinic commentator, says that the goal of an argument for the sake of heaven helps us arrive at the truth. But Korach's intent was to achieve power and personal honor. Amanda Ripley writes on conflict, and this is what she says, defining conflict in 2 ways. There's healthy conflict and there's high conflict. There is useful friction in what we call healthy conflict. It can be heated, it can be stressful, but in that, dignity remains intact. We need healthy conflict to better defend ourselves, to better understand each other, and to improve. Conflict is actually necessary and good. It's a force that pushes us to be better people, while on the other hand, high conflict separates us into 2 categories, good and evil, us versus them. The rabbis teach that machlokets matter, that we can't live in an echo chamber, that we must have diversity. Actually, unity doesn't mean us one opinion alone. Unity has diversity within it, a multiplicity of voices and opinions that can help us as a society as a country, as a Jewish people, and a world. Diversity pushes us further. It doesn't expand the chasms that are between us, but by engaging in respectful conversation that helps us get to a better place. Could the rabbis foresee a time like this, we ask? When we are attacked, when all there are denouncements, when we see revolts and protests, when we shout at each other, when there's no more civility, when our own security and safety are at risk. Must we still have those larger tables? Must we still seek the sake of heaven? But how can we expand our circles of discussion when we feel like we are a solitary voice? Our world feels like it is full of despair, full of conflict, and full of disagreement. Is it even possible at this point in 2025 to have healthy conflict, as Amanda Ripley says? The rabbis warn us that each of us has the potential to become our own Korach, to lose perspective, to be so consumed with ourselves and our pain, to be self-serving, to become simply defensive, to become cruel and self-righteous. The Cheshire Cat in Alice in the Wonderland teaches, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So the question is, what world are we going to? Can we find a world where there is healthy dialogue, a future where we can learn together with honest and truthful intentions? Rabbi Shai-Held teaches in his book, Heart of Torah, that Korach's misfailing, his misstep, was a failure to understand the difference between facts and aspirations. Rabbi Jacob said one of Korach's main arguments against Moses is the idea that if all the Jewish people are holy, then why would Moses and Aaron be the leaders? In fact, Korach was from the same family. He was a Levite, which were chosen to be the leader. So why shouldn't he be the leader if everyone's holy? Rabbi Shai-Held writes this, the truth is that holiness isn't a destination. It's a challenge. It's a calling. It's a lifelong task to strive for. To say we are all holy is a dangerous illusion because it must be a perpetual aspiration. True leaders see the chasm between that aspiration and the reality where we are right now. And we see that in Israel, where the losses are so great. But we also see in Israel right now not just solidarity, but the word achdut, which means unity. It doesn't mean that there aren't coalition arguments. It doesn't mean that the streets of Israel aren't filled with protest. It doesn't mean that there were settler uprisings like there were this past week. But the word achdut means that we are bound together by more than simply one thread. I'd like to share with you a letter that was penned, that was written and published this week by a rabbi in Israel who's a rabbi of a Hesder yeshiva. A Hesder yeshiva is an Orthodox yeshiva where students learn and they serve in the military. Rav Tamir Granot wrote this letter, which was a moving letter for his son who was killed 1 week after October 7th began, serving in the IDF. He was recently engaged, and he was a talented pianist. His name was Amitai Granot. These are some excerpts from Rav Granot's letter. Writing to his dead son. Before the war, there was terrible division in our country during those days of judicial reform and protest. But right after it, we discovered an incredible unity. At first, that unity was a survival instinct. But then, over time, we began to descend once more into division. And now, in the days since the loss of Operation Rising Lion, these 2 weeks against Iran, we as a people are united again. Only this time it's not through desperate unity as survivors, but the chosen unity of a people with responsibility, looking ahead to build its future. A unity of purpose. A new biblical chapter is being written in our days. You will never be able to read it, my son, but you will surely be one of its heroes. When Queen Esther discovers her inner strength, When she puts on her royal garments, she transforms from a silenced victim into a great leader. The people learn to unite around her, to gather and to fight. In our days, we have seen so much greatness in the soldiers, the reservists, the volunteers, and sometimes even the leaders. So many expressions of courage, of kindness, of generosity, of human greatness and faith. The people of Israel came into this world to repair it, to lift sparks from the darkness. And among us there is not only a storm, but there's also inspiration. There's not only protest, but there's belief. When we advance by our own initiative, goodness will come. When we fall asleep, we grow complacent. But then through our power, we will repair. We will lift those sparks. We will find light in darkness, turn bitterness into sweetness, because we have the power to change reality. My Amitai, I want you to read the words that you yourself wrote in your journal, which your parents we found after you fell in battle. And we read it without asking your permission because you aren't here for us to ask. These words have become a compass for a continuing of my own journey, and I share it with you because the words of Amitai of blessed memory can be a compass for each and every one of us today. Quote, every person has a sign in their life if they seek something true, which I'll say is l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven. If one's motives are pure, if one encounters difficulty along the way, if one gets stuck or falls and there's anger or frustration, then something's not right, either in what one seeks or in the seeker themselves. The sign that a person truly desires something real is through hardship, through brokenness. You don't grow bitter. You don't despair. Rather, you're filled with longing, a deep soul longing to become greater in order to be filled with goodness. That's Rav Grenot's compass, and that's our compass today. How can we find the way to enlarge our table, to have pure motives, to live for the sake of heaven, l'shem shamayim? The rabbis actually present a possibility of redemption for Korach. The rabbis say that even though he was swallowed up whole by the earth, his children weren't. They didn't follow their father's ways. They learned how to stand together, to bind threads together. They repented, and they actually had a formal role in the Jewish people. They were leaders. They became the composers of music, the musicians, the singers, the lyricists. They wrote prayers. They wrote 11 of the Psalms in our Bible, which were focused on unity and harmony. Am Yisrael Chai, may we also find that achdut within our own congregation, within ourselves, within our relationships, within our country, within Israel and the globe. May there not be machloket she'ena l'shem shamayim, for the sake of personal advance, for self-ambition and aggrandizement. But may we have l'shem shamayim, may we all live for the sake of heaven. And if we do that, in the words of Amitai, this world will be filled with goodness. Amen.